Namaste everyone. We are here with yet another session of On Your Growth. Today we are here with Swami Karma Karuna Saraswati. She is an engaging intuitive yoga and meditative teacher, inspirational speaker, writer, and IAYT Certified Yoga Therapist with 30 years of clinical and practical experience, including significant training in India, including ongoing visits and guidance with her teacher from the Bihar School of Yoga. She is also certified by Yoga Alliance as an educator provider, and she is a senior teacher of Yoga Australia and Yoga in New Zealand. With this, she has guided several, including Hatha Yoga practices, Hatha Yoga classes, Yoga Nidra meditation techniques, and she is the co-founder of Anhata Yoga Retreat, and she is serving in that institute from the last so many years. With this small introduction, I welcome you on our platform On Your Growth. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'd like to invite everybody to begin by coming into a settled position, closing the eyes. And today's topic is on prana and health. So taking a moment to settle the body, find a point of balance, grounding. Bring your hands into a mudra, gesture of your choice. And if you're not sure on one, take the thumb and ring finger together, palms up or down on the knees. And this is actually very important in relation to the topic of prana, because it helps us to redirect the vital energy inwards and increase it so that we can feel more health and well-being. Eyes closed, whole body becoming stable, grounded, balanced. And take a moment as the body settles to start to feel into any areas that might be holding tension. And there's no need to do anything about it, but become present in front of areas of openness, block, tension. Without judgment, observe. Also notice the breath, the rhythm of the breath, whether it's deep, shallow. Aware of the breath if it's in the abdomen, the chest. And how the breath may be reflecting other aspects of experience. For example, the nervous system. If the nervous system is settled, the breath will be deeper usually. If there's aggravation in the mind, the breath will be more activated and perhaps shallow. Notice for yourself the quality of the breath. And then also notice how the mind is. Is there lots of thoughts, busy mind, quiet mind, focused, distracted? And contemplate for a moment the quality of vital energy. If you were asked, do you feel full of energy, depleted, scattered? What would you answer now? And then taking awareness to the point between the eyebrows, Brahmatya. And together we'll chant the mantra Om 3 times to begin. Taking a deep breath in. Om. 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. As you're ready, feel free to open your eyes, and I'm going to share with you now my slideshow, and we'll go into a little bit of content around this prana and health. So as mentioned, I'm Swami Karma Karuna from Anahat Yoga Retreat, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. And this is a very important topic, prana and health, because it's very much connected to our well-being. The quality of our prana is related to how we feel, how we act. So what is prana? Is the first point. And many people speak of it like now. I asked you, how do you feel? Do you feel full of energy? Do you feel depleted with energy? Do you feel scattered? And the body, the mind, the breath are run by this fuel, you could say. It's like the car is the body, and the fuel behind that is prana, energy, vital force, and that permeates every single layer of matter. And this prana that is external to us as well as internal, we call Mahaprana, the great prana, and that's everywhere. And we also have a representation of that in our own human body. And we have this network of nadis that carry the prana throughout the whole body. I'll show you in a moment a slide about that, but you can see this ancient drawing that has lots of squiggles and lines everywhere. And this is a representation of the energy that sustains the physical body. When the prana leaves the physical body, then the body is nothing more than bones, and it's a corpse, yeah, bones and organs that are no longer operating, no longer have the vital energy behind them to drive them, to move them. The mind no longer works. Maybe the brain is there, but the mind and the brain are not operating. The whole world, whatever there is, vibrates, having originated from prana, the Katha Upanishad. And when we start to think about prana, we see that it's this life force that is distributed throughout the whole of the physical body, the lungs, nervous system, brain. We're using it for movement, thinking. So it's behind every movement. It's behind my arms moving, my ability to speak. It's behind my ability to think, feel. The willpower, the focus of mind, spiritual development is all prana, energy, electricity underlying is within us that allows this to occur. It can be used from a spiritual point of view for health and healing. We connect into the human aura. As we begin to awaken the prana more deeply, then we can even gain psychic abilities. Although from a yogic perspective, we are not aiming for the psychic abilities. That's a side benefit, you could say. But if we get stuck on that, then we can get side railed. So that those are qualities that may awaken, but that's not the main purpose. And we can alter our consciousness as we rise our prana. You'll also see here a chart on the left, which shows you prana that's operating specifically within the physical body, within 5 different movements and forms. And I'll speak about that more deeply in a little while. But just to know that we have this Mahaprana that is everywhere, within us, around us, within every living being, with the plants, the animals, the rocks, everything is composed or has prana underlying. And then within the human body, we also have very specific movements of the vital energy that support our organ systems and support particular qualities of body and mind expressions. And prana is so important. This is actually another nice chart from Richard Gerber that shows us that we've got here the different bodies. So I've just mentioned this. We've got the higher spiritual bodies, mental, astral, etheric, and the physical body. So we often call them the Annamaya Kosha, physical body, Pranamaya, energy body, Manomaya, the mental body, Vijnanamaya, the intuitive energy, intuitive body, and Anandamaya, the bliss body. And these are interconnected into the chakras and the nadis, which are the subtle system, the subtle physiology within our physical body, the electricity, as I've been explaining, which sustains all the different expressions and actions. And in acupuncture and other Eastern systems, we know them as meridians. And there's been, of course, throughout the world, people do work with meridians. You also have marma points in the Ayurvedic system of India and the healing system of Ayurveda. So there's a lot of similarity in all these, in which there's that understanding that there's energy flows and points within the body that are holding, have a specific function, and they are the pranic field. And so the acupuncture systems, the chakras, the nadis, and bioelectric systems as well. And you can see here how there's all this interconnection. So we can't take them as separate parts. They're all interconnected. For example, the chakras and nadis are feeding into the central nervous system, as are the meridians, bioelectric systems. We have here from the central nervous system, then all the physiological functions, respiratory, digestive, endocrine, circulatory, etc. And there's this interconnection of the physical layer, the most gross experience, the nervous system, which is fed by the more subtle system. And mainly I'll be speaking, because that's more my knowledge of chakras and nadis and how that relates. And we won't do so much on the chakras and nadis this class, but we'll do it in another, and how that then relates to the health of our different systems. And to have that understanding from the yogic perspective, we've got flows of energy throughout the entire body. And it is said that, I don't know who counted them, but they say that there's 350,000 or 154,000, 72,000 nadis, which are flowing throughout the whole body. And those are the minor ones. And then we have three main important energy or flows of energy or nadis. And that's represented here by the Pingala Nadi, which is the physical energy, the Ida Nadi, which is the mental or moon energy, and Sushumna, which runs right down the spine. The Sushumna Nadi is the spiritual energy. And you see here these little points, which are the chakras. They're representing the energy centers, the vortexes of energy, which interestingly align with the plexes, with the nervous system plexes. And so you start to see that there's a correlation between the physical body and the energetic system. When we think about prana, we have to think of it as like a bank account. I think this is really important, because we're born with a particular quantum of prana, and like a bank account, we can activate it and increase it, or we can squander it. And to be quite frank, the way we live in our day-to-day life, we're squandering our vital energy for the most part. The majority of humanity wastes it through so many different activities. And you can see here the types of activities we do that waste the prana. So we have technology, which of course is useful at the moment. I'm sharing something with you over technology, but so many people are addicted to it, or they do it at the wrong time of day. So if you're having your telephone at night, then it activates the at the pineal gland in such a way that we don't sleep when we need to. And so then we get the poor sleep, which also means that we're not getting the system refreshed. We're not able to process a lot of the content that comes in through the day, and we end up not being able to revitalize ourselves. So good sleep is very important for having a strong pranic system. If we live in a concrete jungle, it's just void of, well, not void of prana, because there's a lot of human beings there that obviously have prana, but it's very depleting. Like, so we can feel quite, low when we live in these concrete jungles and we don't have practices or the right ways of eating, or perhaps trees around us that can help to really regenerate us. Junk food. So, the diet, the fast foods, the diet of so many people is void of prana. It is not even real food. I don't even think we should call it food. We shouldn't call it junk food, because it's not food. It's just junk. So this has no prana in it. Stress, and I put this one in the middle because stress is absolutely the key point where we get so depleted. We might eat well, we might live in a beautiful nature place, we might use our technology at the right time, but if we are under stress and activated and our sympathetic nervous system is dominant most of the time without the opportunity for the rest and digest, then we are really wasting our energy and unable to manage our health and our well-being. Okay, sedentary lifestyle. So this is very important also. And when we sit around and watch TV, or we take all the pills and medicines, sometimes they're necessary. I'm not saying that. And of course, many of you are doctors, so you will be needing to give those pills sometimes. But if we don't do the exercise and we don't have an active, dynamic life, then our prana gets stuck and again wasted. Blah, blah, blah. So this is something we often don't think about. But if we talk all the time, gossip all the time, over sharing maybe, or talking about things that aren't so important, we waste a lot of our vital energy. So in the yogic circles, we actually have times of silence. We take times where we're with ourselves so that we can regenerate, we can turn our senses in and give ourselves the most opportunity to grow our prana bank account. Overuse of the senses. So that's a similar type of concept. Like if we're out at parties all the time, or we're always socializing and, maybe staying up late, all these things, again, we're wasting the vital energy. And loneliness. So this is another important thing. And I think it's become an issue, particularly during this time of COVID and the challenges we've had over these last few years, is that if we don't have human connection, we can really get contracted and stuck internally. And in that way, the pranic, field becomes very contracted is the right word. Yeah. So those are some of the things that are challenging, and our lifestyle is very important in our experience of vital energy in ourselves. Sensory overload, I want to bring a little bit of attention to this, because the mind follows the senses. So if we are oversensitized, if we're all the time working through the hands, the eyes, the smell, taste, and we're constantly being stimulated, which again, in this busy life that we live, there's so much stimulation through our phones, through our computers, through the people we interact with, etc. We are again using our vital energy, and the mind becomes directed outwards, and there's that constant stimulation, nervous impulses, which uses again electricity to operate, and that's prana. That's an aspect of prana. And not only that, then the stimulation triggers the memory bank, the associations. And so we become like very much projecting into the future or stuck in our past rather than being in the present moment. And if we're stuck in the future, like how am I going to do this, or having fears, it uses our vital energy. Our bank account becomes low on prana. Or if we're in the past, stuck on something that happened, again, all that energy wasted on the past, that we can't change the past, but we can, with presence and consciousness, have a different present and future. So I think this management of the senses of pratyahara is a very important point. And how can we increase our prana bank account? So the things that increase the prana bank account that support us are sun. You know, people say don't go in the sun, that you need your sunblock, but actually sun is very important. It's a source of vital energy. And this is known in India. In fact, there's the sun worship and the salute to the sun, the mantras, that the Gayatri mantra, for example, which is an honoring of that vital energy, because it's been known that it's so important for how we feel and for our ability to be expanded in our prana source. And activities like meditation, very important. To, again, pull the senses in, be in our center, so that we can conserve the energy. And then when we use it, it becomes very powerful. Healthy food, so where possible, growing our own food, organic food, whole foods. So not this junk that we're not calling food, but healthy, organic, where possible, and whole grain foods. Connection. So we saw that how loneliness contracts us. Well, connection, we feed off each other, but of course positive connection, because negative connections also can become a drain for our vital energy. So positive connection with other people that are the sangha, yeah. So the family that discusses the inspirational aspects, that maybe practices together. The spiritual family, sangha, is very important. Nature, so we get energy from nature when we're in these environments. Nowadays, like in certain places like Japan, they have green corridors, and people go outside and they walk in nature in their lunch break, because nature, the green, the nature feeds us. It inspires, it fills up the bank account. Exercise, yeah, so some type of exercise. It doesn't have to be running or lifting weights, but doing movement is very important. It supports the release of the blocks of the prana, and at a physical level, of course, all the lymph which supports the immune system, and the muscles are activated, the organs, everything is healthier when we exercise in some form. Being aware of our thoughts is really important, because actually the thoughts, again, if the mind is crazy and we're going around in circles in our own mind, or we're connecting with others where there's a negative kind of connection, we can waste a lot of vital energy. So positive thoughts. And one of the key ways to really fill up our prana bank is breath, conscious breath. And that's a link into the external world, but also we're filling up our own internal account. So the quality of the prana is very much equals the state of health. Mental or physical dis-ease is an imbalance, and many types of systems speak about any time that there's a mental or physical dis-ease, there's an imbalance in prana. Because prana is what's supporting the mind, it's what's supporting the physical body at the different levels. It can be blocked, it can be overactivated, it can be balanced. And that's what we're aiming for through the practice of yoga, is to balance that vital energy. There are 5 key movements, you can say, of prana. And as I said, we've got the Maha Prana, which is the energy that is in every single experience. And then we have the prana that operates within our own bodies in particular, patterns, you could say. And each of those areas or patterns supports the organs in that area. So you can see here that there's 5 primary sources. We'll go into each one. Each one of them has an individual area and function, but they're all interdependent. So it's not that they operate by themselves. They're interdependent and interconnected. And in fact, they're part of the Mahaprana. They're part of that great energy that we speak about, but they have a particular energy or a particular pattern of operation within our physical body. And when they're out of balance, when they're not operating as they should, then that organ system also will not operate as it should. So part of what we want to do through the yogic practices, the breath, the meditation, is to support the operation of these 5 pranas in our body. And the physical locations are relevant, as we can see, to the particular area of the body. But there's also more subtle expressions which are related to the chakras and the energy centers. And we'll explore the chakras in another talk, but there is a relationship between the 5 pranas and the chakras. And the other thing to be aware of is different yogic texts actually say, express the locations in different ways. So how I share it may be not exactly how you've heard it before, but in general, we can say that these are the operations of the 5 pranas. Okay, so we have here the little prana is how we call it, or the stula prana, prana vayu. And these are light particles which are moving up in the chest. And considered in the ancient texts, it's called the in-breath. From a physical point of view, this stula prana, or the little prana, maintains the heart, lungs, blood circulation, breath, swallowing, pumping blood, speech, etc. If the breath or heart rate increase, then this energy will increase. And particularly pranayama practice, it rises all the levels and balances all the pranas, but particularly it has an influence on this prana vayu. From a more subtle level, and you can also see, if for anybody who does know the chakras, that this is in the area of the Anahat chakra, the heart center. And so there's an association with the qualities of that center, in which there's an intake of ideas and impressions. And when it's flowing well, we feel that sense of strong heart and courage, greatness, one-pointedness of mind. And when there's an imbalance, and I think this is where we want to be really observing ourselves, or perhaps working with our clients, that if there's heart or lung malfunction, poor oxygen intake, these types of physical expressions are related to this prana. Yeah, so practices in this area, like for example, heart expanding types of practices, or bee buzzing, Brahmari, which works in this heart area. These types of breathing practices and physical movements can then have an influence on the flow of that prana. And at a mental level, when it's out of balance, then we're unable to access positive impressions and might have difficulty with concentration or accessing our intuition. So this is called the prana vayu, or the stula prana. And of course, there's so much more we can speak about, but I'm just giving you a little bit of a brief at the moment. The next one that we're looking at here is the apana vayu, and that's moving downward. So it's a downward moving force in the pelvic region, going from the navel to the perineum. And it corresponds to that area, the organs in that area: large intestine, kidney, bladder, bowel, the excretory and reproductive organs. And when this is operating, for example, it supports the expulsion of gas, wind, urine, feces, and it supports also the birth of the child. Yeah, so it's a very strong force. Any of the mothers listening to this will have felt that experience when having a baby. Is a very strong downward force, and that's the apana vayu. And associated with Muladhara chakra, the densest prana, and that earth and water element. It's a heavier force. At a subtle level, where it brings energy down through those 5 layers, the koshas, I already said that, the Swadhisthana, Muladhara, and it assists with awakening of Kundalini. And these are kind of more spiritual aspects. And I really, for this topic, I want to focus mainly on the areas of physical connection, because from that yogic point of view and the health and medical point of view, then simply doing, for example, cobra pose, where we extend and put pressure on the pelvic area, that can be a way of starting to move blocked energy in that area, which will also then have an influence, for example, on the organs associated, for example, the bowel or the kidneys. So the control of apana is also the control of our instinctual energies, our sexual instincts, and some of the other associated aspects of Muladhara, the first chakra. At a mental level, it's for its removing of negative thoughts, emotions. When we see that imbalance, and then we can, that shows up as poor elimination, perhaps pulled down by gravity, depression, negativity. So these are aspects. And again, remember, everything's interconnected. So just because somebody has, say, depression or negativity doesn't mean that the only aspect is the apana vayu. There's so many other links, for example, with the gut biome, and how that, what balance there is, or maybe some past trauma. So there's many different layers, but we can say that there is a relationship. And then moving to the next one, it's the samana prana, which moves back and forth in the navel area, between the navel and the diaphragm, and it's like a pendulum which swings from side to side as far as the energy field, or how one might see it or feel it or experience it. And from the yogic text point of view, it's called the pause between the in and the out breath. The actual word saman means equal or balance, and so it's a balancing these two forces of the prana coming upwards and the apana moving downwards. So this navel, this core area, and it's so important, actually, this whole navel area for mental and physical health. And from the point of view of supporting the organs, this area, samana vayu, is activating and maintaining digestive organs and secretions, the fire element, the metabolism, assimilation of nutrients. And the Manipur chakra, which is where we experience dynamism, vitality. So that's that area of the navel. And we get the life support, the nourishment. And truly, if the Manipur, the navel, the digestive system is out of balance, the health of the whole body is out of balance. And that's something that in all the Eastern systems, we see a similar understanding. At a subtle level, it's maintaining this area, the samana prana maintains cohesion and balance between the koshas. And it's more subtle than the downward moving force of apana, and it's more gross than the upward moving up the prana, and focused on digesting food, but also mental digestion. So it's not just the physical digestion, but how do we deal with the inputs from life, and are we able to digest the experiences of life in a smooth and balanced way? When it's imbalanced, we see turbulence of the body, senses. When the samana is agitated, it can cause like stress, fight, flight. So these types of overactivated experiences. And also from a physical point of view, that poor assimilation of food and digestion, buildup of toxins, and also the psychological influences. Then we have here the Udana Vayu, and that's a spiraling flow of light. It's the least dense, and it's moving through downward in the legs, arms, upward in the head. And this is important, I think, in our in this day. They're all important, actually, but this coordinates the movement of the head, arms, and legs. And it's particularly important because it's functioning, it's behind the sensory organs, the gyanendriyas, which are, how we get knowledge, how we get experiences in, and then the organs of actions, karmendriyas, the expressions outwards. And if this is out of balance, or if we're oversensitized, if we have too much sense experiences, and not enough balance, then also there's an influence on the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, where it means that we don't kind of coordinate well. Associated with Vishuddhi chakra, which is the throat center, and works with respiration, intake of food, drink, etc. At a subtle level, it's the pranic link between the heart and the brain. and it helps to perform positive mental work. Vishuddhi, and this area is associated with sweet melodies, singing, impressive speech. And so this particular area is also, the Udana Vayu pervades Agya Bindu Sahasrar. And when we do meditation, pratyahara, turning the senses in, meditation, focus, this Udana slows down. And what that relates to, you could say, at a more practical level, is when we draw the senses in, we move into pratyahara, and then we're controlling those senses. And so it slows down. That makes perfect sense. From an imbalance point of view, then we might have breathing troubles, inefficiency in physical and mental work, and ability to think or express oneself, weakened will, and lack of cheer. And then we have this Vyana prana, which is the reserve force, the second wind. And I always think about that, like, if you maybe have a very long day at the office and you feel like, oh, I'm so tired, had enough, and you feel like all you want to do is go to sleep. But then all of a sudden there's a second wind, there's an ability to still get up and go to the dinner with the family or whatever it is. And so this is the Vyana prana. When the other pranas are out of balance or are being depleted, the Vyana prana steps in. And it regulates and controls the muscular movements of the body, helping the body to stay erect, pervades the whole body, and it creates that boost when the other pranas are becoming depleted. And so this is actually important, because the thing is our body is amazing, and it does everything it can to keep bringing us to balance. It keeps trying to create health for us. But if we don't pay attention to the messages of the body, for example, say the digestive system, we're having gas and uncomfortable, digestion or lack of proper digestion, and we don't pay attention to it, and we don't think about our stress, or we don't change our eating habits, or we keep on, having lifestyle habits or mental patterns that don't support us, over time, in the beginning, the reserve force, the Vyana prana, will step in and support that Samana prana at the navel. But if we don't listen to the body, then also the Vyana prana gets depleted. And then that's when we can get into even further disease, you could say. So it's coordinating the other pranas, and it causes them all to function. It's their accessory, and it aids by sending impulses to the different parts. So at a subtle level, circulation through all the 5 layers of experience, the spatial element in the body, the vehicle of consciousness. And if there's imbalance in the Vyana, this sense of expansive energy becomes imbalanced, and there can be lack of coordination, tremors, erratic mind, inability to reach out to people. So very important for many aspects of both physical as well as our emotional and kind of social life. In excitement, the mind gets excited and delusions are created. So that would be an imbalanced aspect of the Vyana prana. So those are the 5 pranas and how they operate in the physical areas and the more subtle areas. And I think the main thing I would invite you to think about taking out is to start to pay attention, which areas in your body have some type of imbalance. For example, is there digestive issues? Is there issues with the breath or with the heart or elimination, or, the ability to let go of toxins, and or our coordination of movement with the body. And when we start to see which areas have perhaps some expression of imbalance, it gives us the clue and the cues to know what to do. And from a yogic perspective, as I said, we might do some, opening things in the heart space, or we might do some activities that generate energy in the navel area, or we might do, squatting and do work with our hips and our low back and our pelvic area. And in this way, we can begin to support the flow of prana, support the balancing of the energies. And then, of course, as I mentioned, more than anything, it's the lifestyle. I think the lifestyle aspects are the most important. How can we conserve our vital energy? And where are we wasting it? Where are the leakages in our day-to-day experience? So that's very important, because if we leak out all the energy, then we become depleted. So some of the ways that yoga can support that is, as I've just mentioned, some of the practices, and they can be done in certain areas or for the whole body. And we're supporting the organ systems and the flow of vital energy in the body. We're removing the energy blocks. So when a prana is not flowing properly, it may show up as a block. So there just doesn't feel like it's operating. And when we do these practices, the hatha yoga, we begin to remove some of those or support the energy flow. And it also teaches us conscious use of energy. And this comes back to the lifestyle again, because when we do asana practice, the hatha yoga practice, then we're learning, how to move the body with awareness, how to listen to our body. What's the body telling us? Because the body gives us all the messages. It's just that we don't listen most of the time. And so when we do the hatha yoga practice, we start to learn conscious use of energy. We start to learn to listen inwards. And that can give us the clue of, which practice to do, or now it's time to maybe do some restorative and rest more, or I need some activation. And in this way, we can start to manage our life in a really positive way. We can create balance between the Ida and Pingala. So remember, those are those two flows of energy, which are moving up, crisscrossing at the energy centers, and very much like the medical symbol. And those two flows represent mind and body. And so when we practice hatha yoga, hatha, hatha represents exactly that, the sun and the moon becoming balanced. And that's what we're aiming to do through these practices. And we're supporting the 5 pranas and the chakras also to operate more function, in a better function and more optimally. Of course, pranayama and the breath is one of the most important things that we can work with. And we have, and I think this again, just to think about this, 10 to 15 breaths in a minute, 21,700 breaths per day. Now ask yourself, how many of those breaths are you actually conscious of? And I would say maybe only a few when we may be doing our yoga practice or our mindfulness practice, but not many. It's said if we could be present and aware for all 21,700 breaths, that we could actually in this very day be enlightened. But unfortunately, we stay present for about 2-3 breaths, and then the mind goes off, or we get distracted by the senses, or we get too tired, or whatever it may be. So the breath is a key for learning to activate our prana, direct our prana, organize it in such a way that it is becoming more optimal. So pranayama is very important. And we had discussed that last time, that we have the diaphragmatic breath, which is a core point, because that helps us come into relaxation response. And we've been speaking about how important the relaxation is for our whole system to operate, and for our pranic bank account to remain in a good state. And with the diaphragmatic breath, we're improving oxygenation, we're improving digestive system, metabolism, excretory function. So those are, as we've already spoken about, particularly the samana prana at the navel, and the downward moving prana at the whole pelvic area. So they're supported by the diaphragmatic breath, as well as the little prana, the prana at the heart area. Vagus nerve toning, which is the fastest way to the relaxation response, and that is so key and for so many functions. And then the classical pranayama. So we're releasing pranic blocks, where we can heat, cool, balance, calm. And I'll just go back a minute, because that's very important, the pranayama. So pranayama, 2 meanings of that. One is to control the prana, pranayama, and the other is pranayama, which is to expand and liberate. So the classical pranayama techniques, particularly, we're aiming to expand and liberate our prana, and that can allow us in a very short time to keep our pranic bank account full. Yep. So we are rich in the pranic field. Okay. Restorative yoga, and this is gaining more popularity around the world. And it doesn't have to be with a bolster, but more the point here is that we need time where we're in rest and recharge, when we're in relaxation state, when we allow for the whole system to be at ease. And so having some types of restorative practice is very helpful for supporting ourselves at the health and prana level. As we've already spoken about meditation and developing the attitude of a witness, this is another one of the yogic ways that we really can bring ourselves back to center. And it doesn't take a long time, it can be 5 minutes, 5 minutes that we come into our center. Even that each day will make a difference. I had a client just now before sharing this talk with you. And she started to practice daily, and she was sharing with me that just with the short practice, how she comes and she does a few breathing practices and a short witnessing meditation practice, about 10 minutes. And when she feels triggered or anxiety comes, so she has anxiety, and she said just in those few moments of practice, it's making all the difference, where she feels like she can face the day again, where she said, I can do this, I can handle this, I can handle whatever comes at me. And that's only a 5-10 minute practice. So just a little bit can be of great support. And from me, and I'd like to do a whole talk on this sometime for you, Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is one of the most powerful practices on so many levels. It trains us in the witness. It helps us to come into the relaxation response, decreases heart rate, blood pressure, circulating stress hormones, helps to change the brainwave patterns, muscular, mental, emotional release, and it allows this vital flow of energy to flow throughout the whole body more freely, affecting all the systems, autonomic nervous system, endocrine, digestive, etc. In and of itself, it begins as a pratyahara practice in which we withdraw from the senses and allow ourselves to really just tune in, but also it can become a very powerful practice of letting go of deep unconscious patterning, and also it can bring us to the highest states of meditation. So I really highly recommend meditation or Yoga Nidra meditation as a powerful practice that can support our pranic bank account. And that's a little bit of how you could be in contact with myself and Anahat in the future. So for online private sessions and yoga therapy, the Anahat website if you'd like to connect with us. And also the best thing to do is get on the newsletter so you can be updated on blogs and recipes and etc. And Facebook, of course, too. All right, so I'm going to stop the sharing now, and I'd like to invite some questions. If you have any questions to ask me today. And hopefully that was of interest and has brought a few more things to light.
A great session. I believe that it was enlightening in the terms to share the knowledge to all of us. So my first question would be like, how do you see that if any individual comes to you and then to analyze the chakra, which chakra is affected, and how to give the insight in the normal or the layman language to understand, because it's a very difficult or the philosophical, but to make it very easy for a general individual. So how do you do it for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think from that point of view of just really keeping it practical, and I would like to speak more in depth on the chakras in the future. So, but what I would say in general, we might bring that back to the 5 pranas, is thinking about the organ systems. So if the digestive organs aren't operating well, that is going to indicate that the samana prana and the manipur chakra are out of balance. And that, as we spoke about when we looked at those 5 pranas, it might be a more subtle aspect of the mind and emotions, or it may be a more really gross aspect of the physical layer. If we notice that in the heart or the lungs aren't operating well, or there's difficulties with breathing or difficulties with feeling open, connection, then that would indicate that the Anahat chakra and this upward moving prana, the little prana, stula prana, is out of balance. And in this way, for example, I would keep it really connected to the organ systems, particularly in the medical field. And as we know, everything's interconnected. So it's not so simple as just saying, okay, the digestion's out of balance. So now you have to, do, say, boat pose for the navel area. Because of course the digestion might be out of balance because of stress. We know that stress creates an imbalance in the digestion because it affects the vagus nerve, or it affects the whole of the adrenal glands. It affects the whole system, and the digestion doesn't operate well if we're in a state of stress, because we are rather getting all the energy so we can run from the lion as compared to giving it to our digestive system. So we can't kind of always differentiate it exactly, because everything's so interconnected. But I feel like we can get a reading or a picture by looking at people, even just looking at how they show up. Like, are they open? Are they tall? Are they shining? Or are there dark circles under the eyes? Are they, contracted? So how we hold the body can give us an indication. How the organ systems can give us an indication. And then, of course, with each chakra area, there are emotional and mental states as well. So for example, if we are feeling insecurity or lack of confidence, that would indicate the area of the navel, Manipur, being out of balance. If we're feeling a lot of, say, attachment and or closed emotions, or too much attachment, that would indicate Anahat chakra. If we feel, that we can't speak our truth clearly, and we have either, the voice is stuck or it's over activated, then that will indicate that the Vishuddhi area is out of balance. So like this, we can start to get an indication, and then apply some of these practices, and particularly lifestyle. I feel like that's so important, and that people start to really consider the lifestyle, because if we're staying up late and eating late meals, heavy late meals, and all the time gossiping and on our phone 24/7, then you can do all the practices you like for your chakras, but you're going to keep depleting the energy field. The imbalance will continue until we actually work also with our lifestyle and with our mental and emotional patterns. Yeah. Does that give some answer?
I'm really clear with that, and hope that whoever going to see this question or listen to this might give a great insight to understand how the chakra we can understand in the normal life, and make it more visible, to make it more available for ourselves to realize the consciousness what we have.
Yes.
So my next question would be, like, there is a shloka in Hatha Yoga Pradipika in chapter 2 verse 2, Chale vate chale chittam nishchalam nishchale bhavet. Like, how our breath is regulated with our mind. If your breathing is fast, your mind is fast. So really, I want to know about this from your perspective, and how it can be practiced in the normal life or in a regular day.
Yeah, so this is a great question, and also a beautiful quote. And the breath is so key, and exactly that. When the mind is fast, or we're feeling angry, emotional, we'll find that the breath becomes more up here, because the sympathetic nervous system is being activated. And when we are more calm, or we have a long deep breath, then we can come into our parasympathetic. And absolutely, the breath is connected with the mind and emotions. If we get scared, if we get angry, then like this. And so I think the important thing to understand about the breath, which I'd mentioned earlier, is that the breath is both conscious and it's unconscious. So it's going on from birth until death. Until the moment we're born, until the moment we leave this body, the breath is going on. And mostly that's unconscious. So most of the time we're not aware of the breath. But if we can start to become aware of the breath, and the unconscious breath, I'll say, is the brain stem is controlling that. Yeah, so that's the autonomic part of our experience that occurs whether we think about it or not, which is a good thing, because if we had to think about the breath, we'd all be Hariam Tat Sat, we'd be gone, right? So the fact that the breath also, and this is the only autonomic aspect that we can control. So we can control the breath. We can lengthen it. We can make it faster. We can make it slower. We can hold it for some time. And that is activating the frontal lobe of the brain, the higher brain. And so when we practice this conscious breathing, when we're aware of the breath, when we purposely work with it through pranayama or even in our day-to-day life, we are having a direct influence on our experience, on our mind, on our emotions. And so I feel like the most important thing we can start to do is start with just observing the breath patterns. Like, is my breath deep? Is it shallow? Is it in my chest? Is it in my abdomen? And that's the first step, is the observing of the breath. Second step is, I feel for the majority of the population, is beginning with the most simple aspect of the abdominal or the diaphragmatic breath. Because if we can start to work with the diaphragmatic breath, we're having that influence on the vagus nerve. And as soon as we have that relax and digest experience, that calming of the nervous system, we have so much more perspective. When we're in our fight and flight, then the only thing that the system is trying to do is keep us alive. It wants us to survive. So it's going to fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah. And in that moment, the digestion goes offline. If people, the woman that might want to be conceiving a child, the ability to conceive goes offline, because if you're running from the lion, you don't need to digest your food. You just need to get away from the lion. And our nervous system doesn't know the difference between being upset because maybe the boss got angry, or because you feel too much pressure, and running from a lion. The nervous system experiences it and perceives it in the same way. In any case, it's trying to keep us alive. And when we're trying to stay alive, we only have a narrow vision to get out of that situation. Whereas the minute we could use our breath to come into a relaxation response, to calm the system through the vagus nerve, through activating the diaphragm, the vagus nerve, then we have a wider view. And then whatever we're facing, we can face it in a different way. So I feel like those are the two key aspects that are most important. And of course, we can build on that and begin to do classical pranayama and nadi shodhan for balancing Ida and Pingala. And we can go to deeper ways of using pranayama, like Bastrika to heat and to activate, or Ujjayi breath or Brahmari for calming. So, we can use these classical pranayams, but the most important is these first two, learning to be the observer of our own breath patterns, because we can do that anywhere. You can do it at the park, in the supermarket, you can do it when you're in your office with your patients, and also the diaphragmatic breath. There was actually, I listened to a healthcare summit some time ago, and I thought this was a very good technique. The doctor was saying he felt so stressed, and so many patients to see, that he never just had that moment to kind of even switch between one patient and another. So he made he went to a mindfulness type of seminar, and he decided, he got the indication or inspiration that each time he was going to change patients, he would pause at the door and he would do 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths before moving into the next patient. So, so he could let go of whatever was before and come with presence to the next patient in front of him. And this type of thing we can apply to whether it's in our office or to our daily life. Sit in the car, do 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths, and then turn the car on. Yeah. When you're standing in a line for something, do some diaphragmatic breath. It will, instead of worrying about, I'm going to be rushed, I've got to get here and I'm standing in this line. Instead, if we do the breath, it will keep us calm and give us bigger perspective. Yeah. So like this, just these 2 simple, most basic practices we can bring into our daily life and share also with others, with our patients. And this will change everything. will change everything. Just those two simple practices. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this the answer, which was very elaborative and conceptualized, to which I can understand or everyone can relate with their regular life to how to control or manage the pranas or to balance the prana. What would be your last insight to everyone and our today's session? What
Yeah,
would be your
I,
last words?
I think I'd just like to go back to, if you remember, the lifestyle aspect. So remembering the things that deplete our vital energy, you know, the junk food, the too much online, not enough good sleep, or, you know, too much social life, all these things that kind of really deplete us. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like we're a flat battery. And then the things that really energize us, you know, being in nature, make sure you go to nature sometimes, go walk or do movement. We need to move. The body has to move in order to operate properly. It's like oiling the joints. And, you know, you don't, if you have a car, you have to take the car into the shop and you have to do the right thing so the car operates. The body is the same. If we don't take the body car into the shop and give it the right environment and the right inputs, the right food, the right medicines, the right environment of people, the right sangha, the right support, then it becomes depleted and it doesn't operate, it doesn't function well. So I think the takeaway message is really be serious about your lifestyle and maybe just make small steps to start with, but think about these important aspects of sleep, food, people we spend time with, how much you're on your devices. Do you do enough movement? Are you coming to nature, into nature? Do you do a little bit of contemplation or meditation, breathing? All of these things make the difference to a beautiful full bank account, prana bank account. Yeah. And that's what we want, because that's our life. Prana is our life. Without prana, we're a corpse. Yeah, if the prana is not operating well, the mind doesn't operate well. The functions of the body don't operate well. Yeah, so if we want an optimal life, then we have to optimize our prana, and lifestyle and attitude is one of the most key important places or points to think about. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your wonderful session that what we had today. And it was a great pleasure for the team on your growth to have you on our platform for the second time. And we hope we will continue the series of session with you, which gives a lot of insight and gives a tremendous energy by doing start with the prayers, start with the awareness towards your body, your breath and mind, and which gives a difference of each session, which a presentation or a student should start his life with awareness towards these three major points with body, mind, and breath. And I hope you give always the same efforts to make us understand what the chakras or what the yoga is in a very streamlined manner. So thank you so much once again to come on our platform. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om
Namaste.
Tat Sat.